you can click back on that to ask a question. So joining us tonight is Alex Loshak. I'm sure many of you have seen Alex clutching his camera, taking pictures in the area. He's here to share tips with us on how best to photograph flowers. So welcome, Alex. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Danielle, and thank you for inviting me tonight. I put together tonight's presentation hoping to give you a few helpful hints and tips on how to get better photographs. For those of you who are more experienced with photography, there are not a lot of technical details here, but I hope maybe it'll give you some inspiration for future shots. At the end, and I'll be honest, I have no idea how long this will take. I will attempt to answer any questions you have. So if there are things along the way you'd like to ask, please make a note. If I can answer, I will. If not, or if you miss something, I've offered to provide the presentation as a PDF document afterwards, so you can download it and take a look at it at your leisure. It won't have my patter to go with it, but it will include the videos that are included and the notes and the photographs. Okay, I'm also going to turn my camera off because I have terrible eyesight, and to see anything, you'll be looking up my nose. So I will cruise through and we'll see how long it takes. Any questions, folks, before I get started? In that case, and I need to share my sound. And if you can't hear me, please let me know. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yep, that's good.
I call this presentation Flowers, What Makes a Good Image and How to Achieve It. I'm just going to make a layer not move. Oh, there we go. Okay, quick introduction for those of you who don't know me. My name is Alex Loshak. You can find me online on my website or on Facebook. I've owned a camera for more than 50 years. All I will say about that is I started really young. I moved to Brockville with my wife 10 years ago and joined the local photography club as a way to meet people in a new town. And it's been great. I've met, it seems like, half your members through one means or another. Through the photo club, I ended up instructing a class at St. Lawrence and also leading a photography enthusiast group at the 50 Plus Activity Center, which at the moment is on hiatus, of course. I grew up in Ottawa. I've lived there most of my life. And until last September, when I actually turned 65, I officially retired after 30 years of running my own graphic design business. I have contributed to stock photo agency in the past, and I've also sold a line of greeting cards in the past. I still sort of do it, but not really. As far as gardening is concerned, my mother would be appalled that I don't know Latin names for everything in our garden, but she'd probably be gratified to know that I can actually grow stuff. So I didn't pay attention when I was growing up. My mother was a master gardener, veg, fruit, flowers, you name it. And before we moved to Brockville, my wife did any of the gardening that was required. Once we moved here, though, different story. I found not exactly a passion, but I do find it relaxing, and I do love to be out in the garden. And of course, having a camera makes it even better. So I am not a flower photographer. I do take photographs of flowers. So to give you some idea of what I do photograph, there's a short video, it's about 3.5 minutes, and I have deliberately stripped out all, if not most, of the flower shots, saving them for later, and you won't see any people shots. Otherwise, Enjoy. And now it's good. Oh, come on. Sorry, I don't know what's happening here. I'm going to have to share again. It worked the other night. Okay, I photographed pretty much anything. Let's try this. Okay, folks, as you can see, I shoot just about anything. But the fact is, making a great photograph of a flower isn't any different from making a great photograph of anything else. You need a camera, you need a subject, and you need some light. I take it everybody can still hear me.
Yep, we're good.
Okay. I left my camera on because I forgot to turn it off. Any camera will work, including cell phones, but it really helps having a macro or a close-up function. It'll just give you a lot more opportunities. Optional, a tripod, although it might be necessary if you want to take the same shot over and over using different settings, or if it's likely your hand is going to shake enough to shake the shot. It'll be blurry. If you're going to use a flash, I would recommend taping a piece of parchment paper over it, basically just to make the light a little less harsh. If you want to use a reflector to bounce light around a bit, tinfoil works really well. For the techies among you, this is the equipment I use. I probably use this macro lens more than anything else because it allows me to get up close and personal. I have a tripod, reflectors, I use these things. They're about $12 on Amazon. And if I use a flash, I have this thing also about $12 on Amazon, but you can make your own. You can, or a piece of paper will work. If I'm out in the garden or out for a walk, I watch for those things called the elements of art. And if any of you have taken art classes or are painters, you will probably recognize this. I think there are 7 here. You might see a couple of extras, but I like color, form, line, shape, space, texture, and value. Basically what I call interesting stuff. If it catches my eye, then I think about how I'm going to incorporate it in my camera. Basically what I call composition, but artists will call balance, emphasis, movement, etc., etc. If you want more detailed descriptions of these things, you'll find them. I've added a couple of appendices. First of all, what's the purpose of the photograph? Why are you taking it? Maybe it's documentary. Maybe you're taking a shot for a local magazine. Maybe it's for a contest. If it's documentary, I remember my mother drawing little diagrams and scribbling where was what in the garden so she could find it the next year. With a digital camera on your phone, maybe you just want to take a picture of it. You'll remember next year. Or maybe you want to take a series of shots. When we bought our house 10 years ago, this is what it looked like. And I'm pleased to say that even then I knew more than some, because some neighbor came and chastised us for chopping down the lovely trees. And even I know that Manitoba maples are simply oversized weeds. So those are the weeds chopped down, and 10 years later, that's what the garden looks like. You might want to, or you might have space on a photograph you could use for text. Might be simple, something simple, headline. Might be something a little more detailed. I tried my hand at poetry a long time ago. You can read it later. Now, if it's pictorial, it might be something you want to put on your kitchen wall, or it might be for a gallery, or it might be for a competition of some kind. Now, if it's for a competition, be sure you read the criteria really carefully. Make sure you're shooting the right subject. Make sure the photograph is the right size. If it has to be framed, make sure it's the right kind, right size. It's always in the fine print, they'll get you. Now, when you're evaluating a photograph, and I should tell you that I have taken a 1-day course in judging photographs only as a way to evaluate my own photographs and hopefully improve my own photography. To become a qualified judge for the governing organization, it's about a 5-day course and you have to be mentored, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not a qualified judge, but I do know what to look for. So when you're evaluating a photograph, basically you split it into 3 parts: emotion, organization, and the technical. So the emotion, does the image tell a story? Does it attract attention? Was it taken from a creative point of view? If you see the image and it makes you say, wow, then it gets scored out of 10. If it doesn't, it gets scored out of 9. So what do we mean by impact? Does it attract attention? Yeah, I'd say this photograph attracts attention. Does it tell a story? Well, at what stage of growth is this? What happens next? Maybe it's one of his series. the front of the flower isn't always the only thing to photograph. This was taken from the back. Not everybody takes photographs from the back, so why not try? Take a look. The organization of the photograph, is it relevant? Is the composition good? And by that we mean, is the subject clear? Or is it a jumble? You don't know what you're looking at. Is it good positioning? We'll look at rule of thirds and symmetry just very quickly. Are there leading lines? Is it balanced? Is it framed correctly? Which means, are there distracting elements that could have been avoided? Either if the photographer had moved, maybe 1 foot left or right, or cropped something out. Generally, a point is deducted for a major floor, half point for a minor floor. And of course, that takes practice. So rule of thirds, very briefly, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, if you split the image into 3 and 3, where the lines cross are the focal points. And that is where people tend to focus first. So if you want to put your subject on one of those points, it's probably going to serve you well. You could just make it symmetrical. This is not perfectly mirrored, obviously, but it looks the same up, down, left, right. You could go both. This one is symmetrical sort of from top to bottom, but the focal point here is about 1/3 of the way along here. They're not rules, they're guides. They shouldn't even really call it a rule, but leading lines. Does the photograph take your eye into the picture? Now, it doesn't have to look like this. It might be a road coming from the left, but does it lead your eye into something? Is it balanced? You want to make sure left, right, top, bottom. Spacing helps. It's really only done by practice, looking at other photographs, and seeing what you like. Get rid of distracting stuff. Down here at the bottom on the left, this little bit down here, and even this distracts from what I really want you to look at, which is this. So I just cropped it. If you crop it right there, that's where the bottom of this is. And last but not least is the technical. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I know you're really not bothered with it. We're going to look at lighting and focus mostly. So, does the lighting add interest? Would it have worked better if it was some other light? It has to be in focus. If your subject's not in focus, take another shot and zoom in. If you're looking at it on your monitor or even on your camera, zoom in, take a close look. Contrast and color. Does the photo make good use of color or contrast of light to dark to set the mood or make the subject stand out? Exposure is the detail in the shadows or blown out highlights, and there are going to be examples of all of these coming, so don't panic. Again, deduct point for major floor, half point for minor floor. So, what about the light? A lot of this you should figure for common sense. Bright sunlight is going to be really harsh, lots of shadows, lots of contrast. If you photograph flowers on an overcast day, you're going to get a much more even light. So the light can set the mood. If you get light from behind something, it can make your flowers or leaves glow. You can get some neat effects. If you need to get light where it isn't, you can sometimes deflect it by using a piece of tinfoil, just a sheet. I set it up using a metal coat hanger and plug the coat hanger into the ground. And if you use a flash, it's best to diffuse it. Like I say, parchment paper works really well. Okay, examples. So more direct light is going to be interesting maybe, but you're going to have a lot of contrast. You're going to have some very brights and very darks and lots of shadows. Might not be a bad thing, but be aware of what you're looking at. If it's really bright light, it's going to be really bright. Maybe that's what you want. If it's a really bright sunny day, you can either shoot in the shadows or you can stand between what you're shooting and the sun. If you have an overcast day, it's going to give you much more balanced light, much more even. This one was lit from the back. The light was behind it and I took this shot. And like I say, you get a lot more interesting detail, and it works for flowers and flower petals. Take a look. The mood can be peaceful, or it can be really bright and cheerful. I'm stuck. Oh, there's focus. Okay. Make sure you're aiming at the point of interest. Make it sharp, and you'll keep much more in focus if you shoot it straight on. Watch out for the wind. Like I say, I use a wire coat pliers to cut the end off, and I use it as a small stake. I'm lazy. I don't get up first thing in the morning, and I don't go out late at night or in the evening. So by the time I'm up, there's usually a wind. Avoid a cluttered background. And by cluttered background, I don't just mean the other flowers that you may not want in your shot, but I'm talking about the garden shed, the wheelbarrow, the tools, the glove that you inadvertently forgot. Check what you're looking at before you click the button. You can use a very shallow depth of field, and I'm not going to go into a lot of that. Your camera will take care of most of it. Get closer, or you can crop your photograph afterwards. And the simplest of all, just change your point of view. Bend down, lie down, take a step to the left or a left to the right, or go around the other side if you can. Now, your photographic challenge, as I understand it for this year, is divided into 3 classes. Digitally edited photos of a group of 3, spring into action, and the blues. So keeping that in mind, we're going to look at samples now. And somehow, yep, sorry. Okay, altered trios. Now, I think that counts as 3. It's altered because it's black and white. This one, if you look closely, you will see it looks like it's on canvas. Now, to be able to do this kind of thing, you may have a camera that will allow you to shoot in black and white. But for most of the other special effects, you're going to need to use some kind of software. You may already have some, but if you don't, I would recommend this site, photop.com. You can use it online. You don't have to download anything at all. And it's actually quite straightforward to use. There are tutorials if you want to have a look. And it will do pretty much anything Photoshop, which I'm sure everybody's heard of by now. Pretty much anything Photoshop will do. In fact, it will open and save Photoshop files too. For those of you who have an interest in software, I also use Nik filters. I use a very early free version, which is no longer available. But if anybody wants a copy, get a hold of me and I'll send it to you. And if you're taking pictures on your phone, I would recommend an app called Snapseed, which is actually owned by Google. It's free. And again, it will do almost anything you want to do. You can resize your photographs, you can put filters on, and it's really easy to use. Okay, so first balloons. We are very lucky here in Brockville, in my opinion, in that the city does a really nice job, especially on Courthouse Square. They do tulips galore, and of course, tulips are among the first. So wander down there if you don't have them in your garden. We don't have a lot of tulips in our garden. a different shot of a tulip for a change. And I have one interesting story about tulips, in that we used to live very close to the Dow's Lake in Ottawa. And every year we'd go and check out the Tulip Festival. And one year, I didn't take a photograph, stupidly. I saw Malak Karsh, who must have been in his 70s at the time, standing on a stepladder taking shots. And anytime anybody asks me if you can get bored of taking tulip photographs, I point them to his website, where he's taken the cover shot for the Ottawa Tulip Festival every year for more than 50 years, and every shot is different. In our garden, we have these early, you guys know way more about gardening than I do, but this is what shows up first in our garden, followed by trilliums. The blues. I've noticed we don't have a lot of blue in our garden, so might be a challenge, I don't know. Good example of a straight on shot. This was at my next door neighbor's. Clematis, maybe? Simple guidelines for better shots. Fill the frame. Whether it is a group of blooms or whether it is another group of blooms. When you're close, get closer. So this was a shot of our irises. Get a little closer. You saw that one before. Get a little closer. And even get a little bit closer. Sort of looks like a caterpillar. Watch for the unusual. Now, it may be something you're going to snip to get rid of it, but before you do, why not take a shot? Kind of neat colors. Go abstract. There are some amazing flowers out there now. Some of the tulips are extraordinary. Black and white works well, but it usually works best if you're working with lines or patterns or textures. So this was taken in color originally, but I like the swirly look. Same thing for this. I was lying down on my stomach to take that. And when you're in amongst the flowers, keep your eyes open for other things. I like bugs especially. When you're in among the flowers and the plants, just stand there still for a few minutes and watch the activity going around you. I got a twofer here because this guy showed up in the middle. And of course, the favorite monarchs. Okay, on that note, folks, I am going to I just want to make sure I'm on the right page. Yes. I have left you two appendices, which you're welcome to read in the PDF. And I'm going to leave you with a video. It's about the same length as the other one, but it is flowers only. Enjoy.
Oh.
No?
Thank you, folks.
Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask Alex?
I do. I find when I'm shooting flowers that are red and pink, I find it hard to capture the true colors.
Do you have a Nikon?
Oh, goodness, no.
It's funny you should say that because I have a Nikon camera and I find it does exactly the same thing. I always have too much red. It's what's known as oversaturated. If you're using any kind of editing software, you just need to desaturate it a touch. Basically, your eyes will tell you. But it's common with some cameras, I guess. And it also, this sounds really stupid, but some people see more red than others.
No, I just find it amazing. You look at a flower and there it is, and then it doesn't come up the same color at all.
It's all blurred and fiery and in your face. And any detail.
The nuances are lost completely.
Yeah. Try desaturating just a touch.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you so much.
And you could try it in that PhotoPiece software, or if you're on a phone, try Snapseed if you don't have some native app on your phone already.
Okay, Snapseed. Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Anyway, I hope if any of you are on Facebook, please send me a friend invite. Some of you I'm connected with. I don't post a lot, but pretty well all the photos I post are of Brockville, in and around. I don't get out much, so Brockville it is.
Well, Alex,
really good, Alex.
Thank you so much.
thank you,
You're
Alex.
very welcome. I
Thank
hope
you all.
everybody learned something, and I will send Danielle a revised PDF because I did change it a bit, Danielle.
Okay,
And-
Alex, well, thank you for giving us some useful tips. We have some very talented photographers in the club, and we have others that are still learning. So I'm sure that your advice will be well received and well used. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Good luck, everybody.
Excuse me.
Good
Could
job.
Thanks, Alex.
Could I just say something? I had a conflict. I had a 7 o'clock meeting on Zoom. And I just came on board, so I wondered if you'd start it all over again.
You're gonna have to wait.
Our
You're gonna have
YouTube
to wait for the
Version of
PDF.
it.
You can get it on YouTube, can you?
Yeah. If
Okay.
you go to the BDHS Communique YouTube channel, all of our past meetings are there. Well, I have to edit this one still, but it'll be there in its raw form.
Could you send
And-
me the link to that, Nellie?
I will indeed. And I just want to mention to everyone, you should go to Alex's website. His sense of humor really comes through in the homegrown photography, and that's grown as in a groaner. They're quite good commentary on some of his photos, captioning on his photos.
Thanks very much, folks. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Great presentation.
Well done, Alex.
Bye.
Bye.
Please don't go. I have a few quick announcements.